Imagine yourself caught in a bustling city when disaster strikes. Transportation is jammed, the outskirts of town are unreachable on foot, and leaving might be more dangerous than staying. You're stuck in the heart of a concrete jungle amidst towering buildings and teeming masses, all vying for the same limited resources. The urban environment, typically brimming with life and activity, suddenly becomes a daunting landscape of potential threats. Navigating through a city during an emergency is a unique survival scenario, presenting challenges not usually encountered in rural or wilderness settings. Buildings become both shelter and hazard, the dense population can be an aid or an obstacle, and resources, while abundant, are concentrated and fiercely competed for. In such cases, you need to know how to survive where you are. It's about understanding the urban terrain, its opportunities and dangers, and leveraging them to your advantage. The city with its complexities is your survival landscape, and you're about to learn how to master it. When disaster strikes, it's crucial to secure your immediate surroundings and evaluate your resources. So, what does this look like in an urban survival scenario? Let's dig in. Firstly, let's talk shelter. Your immediate surroundings, whether it's your apartment, office, or even a public building, can serve as your initial shelter. Take a moment to secure it against environmental hazards or threats. This could mean closing and locking doors and windows, or even barricading entrances if necessary. Remember, your goal is to create a safe zone where you can weather the initial stages of the disaster. Now, on to resources. It's time to take stock of what you have on hand. Start with the basics: food, water, and medical supplies. You might be surprised at what you can find around you. That half-empty bottle of water in your gym bag, the can of soup in your pantry, or the first aid kit in your office drawer. These can all become crucial survival tools. But don't stop there. Think about other items that could be useful. Do you have a flashlight or candles for when the power goes out? How about a battery-operated radio to stay updated on the situation? What about a multi-tool or a knife? These items might not seem important in everyday life, but in a survival scenario, they can make a world of difference. Remember, at this stage, it's all about assessing what you have. You might not have everything you need, and that's okay. The key is to know what you do have, so you can plan accordingly. Finally, consider your personal needs. Do you have any medication or medical equipment that you rely on? Do you have any dietary restrictions that could complicate your food options? These factors can significantly impact your survival strategy, so it's important to take them into account from the get-go. Remember, your immediate actions can set the stage for your survival. So take these steps seriously. They might just be the difference between a close call and a catastrophe. Now that you have secured your immediate surroundings, your next step is to fortify your position. This is where your understanding of your environment comes into play. If you're in an apartment building, there are plenty of ways to enhance your safety. Start by reinforcing your doors and windows. You can use furniture, heavy appliances, or anything else that's heavy and sturdy. This not only deters potential intruders but also provides an extra layer of protection against environmental threats like strong winds or flying debris. Next, consider your escape routes. If the situation becomes too dangerous, you'll need a quick and safe way out. Identify multiple exits and make sure they're unobstructed. Don't forget to plan for scenarios where the primary exit might be blocked. Now let's talk about threats that are uniquely urban. Cities are full of potential hazards that you might not encounter elsewhere. Broken glass, for instance, is a common urban threat. If it's safe to do so, clear away any broken glass from your immediate area. Unsafe buildings are another major concern. In the aftermath of a disaster, structures can become unstable and may collapse without warning. If you're near any buildings that look unsafe, it's best to keep your distance. Another urban threat you should be aware of is fire. In a densely populated area, a fire can spread quickly and cause extensive damage. Make sure you know how to operate a fire extinguisher and keep one within reach. Remember, the goal here isn't to make your location impenetrable, it's to make it safe enough for you to stay in until help arrives or until it's safe to leave. Safety is not a destination, it's a continuous process. Finally, always keep a low profile. During an urban disaster, drawing attention to yourself or your resources can make you a target. Stay quiet, keep lights and noise to a minimum, and avoid any unnecessary interactions. Ensuring your safety is the first major step toward surviving an urban disaster. But remember, survival isn't just about staying alive, it's about maintaining your well-being and dignity in the face of adversity. In a lockdown city, managing your resources wisely is crucial. It's not just about what you have, but how you use it. Let's dive into some strategies to ensure you get the most out of your supplies. First and foremost, you'll need to ration your existing supplies. This goes beyond merely portioning out food and water. Consider what you use every day, and how you can make it last longer. Maybe it's using less water for hygiene, or turning off lights to save battery power. The goal is to extend the lifespan of your resources as much as possible, but rationing isn't the end of the story. You'll also need to be resourceful in finding additional supplies. This is where your knowledge of the urban landscape comes into play. Cities are full of untapped resources if you know where to look. For example, think about commercial buildings. They often have vending machines stocked with drinks and snacks, or janitorial closets filled with cleaning supplies that can be repurposed. Now let's talk about water. It's a basic necessity, but in a lockdown city, it can be surprisingly hard to come by. However, urban environments do have potential water sources. Water towers are an obvious choice, but don't overlook less obvious options like decorative fountains, or even the back of a toilet tank in a pinch. Remember to always purify any water you find before drinking it. Lastly, don't forget to consider the resources you can't see. Information can be just as valuable as physical supplies. Stay informed about the situation in your city. Knowledge about safe zones, resource locations, or potential threats can be life-saving. Effective resource management can mean the difference between survival and disaster. By rationing wisely, seeking out new resources, and staying informed, you're not just surviving the urban jungle, you're mastering it, and that's what urban survival is all about. Keeping in touch with the outside world is more important than you might think. In an urban disaster, being in the know can mean the difference between safety and danger. Information is a crucial resource. It helps you gauge the severity of the situation, predict its progression, and make informed decisions. Your first line of communication in a crisis could be your smartphone. Yet, in a prolonged power outage, conserving battery life becomes paramount. Consider switching off unnecessary apps and using your device sparingly. If you have a solar charger or a power bank, even better. Regularly update your loved ones about your situation, but be mindful of not draining your battery in the process. What if your phone's battery dies or the cell towers are down? It's time to get creative. A battery-powered or hand-cranked radio can be a lifesaver, providing updates from local authorities or emergency services. If possible, keep a set of walkie-talkies as an alternative way to communicate with your group or nearby survivors. But what about reaching out to the outside world when all else fails? That's when traditional signaling methods come into play. 3 short blasts on a whistle, for instance, are universally recognized as a distress signal. Flashing a mirror or any reflective surface towards a distant potential rescuer during the day, or creating a pattern of 3 with lights or fire at night, can also signal for help. Remember, communication isn't just about getting updates or calling for help, it's also about connecting with your community. In times of crisis, people band together. Establishing a network with your neighbors can lead to shared resources, mutual protection, and a sense of camaraderie in a tough situation. In essence, effective communication strategies can keep you informed, help you call for aid, and foster a sense of unity and cooperation. So equip yourself with various means of communication, and don't underestimate the power of a shared struggle. In an urban disaster, communication can be your lifeline. Survival isn't just about staying alive, it's about improving your circumstances wherever possible. In an urban survival scenario, complacency is not an option. Your surroundings are constantly changing, and it's essential to adapt accordingly. Think of it as a game of chess. You need to be several moves ahead, anticipating potential threats and opportunities. Always be on the lookout for better shelter, additional food sources, and other essentials. For instance, a seemingly ordinary building might offer better protection from the elements or potential intruders, or perhaps you might discover a previously overlooked source of food or water. But remember, every move carries risk. Switching locations or searching for resources exposes you to potential dangers. Weigh the benefits against the risks. Is the promise of better shelter worth the danger of traversing potentially hazardous terrain? It's also crucial to continuously assess and upgrade your living conditions. A little creativity can go a long way in making a shelter more comfortable or secure. For instance, using materials at hand, you could reinforce doors and windows against potential threats. Or maybe you could devise a way to collect and purify rainwater, increasing your water supply. Identifying new resource opportunities is equally important. Urban environments are rich with resources if you know where to look. Abandoned buildings, for instance, often hold a wealth of supplies, from canned food and bottled water to medical kits and tools. And lastly, make strategic moves to enhance your safety and comfort. This could mean relocating to a safer part of the city, establishing alliances with other survivors, or setting up traps for potential intruders. Remember, adaptability is key in an urban survival scenario. The ability to continuously improve your situation, despite the challenges, can make the difference between merely surviving and actually thriving in a post-disaster urban environment. If you're stuck in the city for an extended period, you'll need a long-term survival plan. When the dust settles and you realize you might be in this for the long haul, it's time to start thinking strategically. The city is more than just concrete and glass. It's a complex ecosystem full of resources, if you know where to look. Forming alliances with other survivors can be a game changer. Pooling resources, sharing information, and providing mutual protection can dramatically improve your chances of survival. Remember, there's strength in numbers. Consider the city as your new wilderness. Just like in the wild, you'll need to find reliable sources of food, water, and shelter. Look beyond the obvious. Abandoned buildings can be repurposed, rainwater can be harvested, and urban wildlife can provide sustenance. With the right strategies and mindset, you can not only survive but thrive in an urban disaster scenario.